The clock on my office wall chimed, a low, muffled sound that barely registered, 3 in the morning. The rest of the villa was dark, silent, my fortress. Perched high above the glittering, sleeping beast of New York was a tomb. Only my office showed signs of life, if you could call it that. A single desk lamp cast a weak, yellow circle on the papers spread across the mahogany. Ledgers, shipping manifests, reports from men whose names I barely knew but whose loyalty I owned. This was the empire, my inheritance, my burden. I leaned back in the heavy leather chair, the old hide groaning in protest. My eyes burned. The glass of whiskey sitting next to my hand was untouched, the amber liquid having long since gone warm. This was the part of the job no one saw. Not the dinners, not the fear I commanded, not the tailored suits, just this. The endless, crushing weight of logistics, of making sure the right hand never knew what the left was doing, while I, Maximo Costa, had to know everything. A vibration cut through the stillness. It was not the heavy, demanding ring of my business phone. That one sat dark. This was the other one, my personal line. It vibrated again, a frantic little buzz against the wood. I stared at it. Annoyance was the first thing to surface. A call at 3 in the morning was never good. It meant a problem. It meant blood, or money, or both. I expected a call from my consigliere, his voice heavy with bad news, another shipment lost, another rival feeling bold. I finally reached for the device. It felt cold in my hand. The screen lit up, blinding me for a second. It was not a call. It was a text message. And the name displayed on the screen made my blood freeze. Eva. It had been 9 months. 9 months of silence. 9 months since the ink had dried on the divorce papers. 9 months since she had walked out of the courthouse, not even looking back, her shoulders straight, a picture of relief. I had not heard a word. I had not expected to. We had said everything there was to say. Most of it screamed in the months leading up to the end. I had not even deleted her number. I suppose, in my arrogance, I had kept it as a reminder, a trophy of the one thing I had failed to control. My thumb hovered over the notification. My heart, a heavy, dormant thing in my chest, gave a single, painful thud. What could she possibly want? Money I had given her more than enough to disappear, to start a new life far away from the shadow of my name. Was she in trouble? The thought sparked a different kind of anger. I had made it clear. Our separation was absolute. Her problems were her own. I tapped the screen. The message thread was empty, a blank slate, just like our lawyers had demanded. All our history, deleted, and then, at the very bottom, 2 new messages. The first was an image. It loaded slowly, resolving out of the digital noise. It was black and white, grainy, a swirling, nebulous shape, like a weather pattern seen from space. I squinted, trying to make sense of it. It looked like a medical scan, an X-ray. Then my eyes fell to the text below it. 3 words, 3 simple words that ripped the world out from under me. Hi, Dada. The phone did not fall. I am not a man who drops things, but my hand, the hand that had signed off on deals worth hundreds of millions, the hand that had held a gun steady more times than I could count. It began to shake. It was a fine tremor, almost invisible, but I felt it like an earthquake, a seismic shock racing from my fingertips up to my shoulder. I stood up. The chair scraped back, loud in the sudden, ringing silence. My breath, I was not breathing. I sucked in a lungful of stale office air. It did not help. Dad. The word was alien. It was a language I did not speak. It was absurd. It was impossible. I looked back at the screen, at the grainy image. My mind, sharp and analytical, finally clicked the pieces into place. It was not a weather pattern. It was a sonogram. I had seen them before, in movies, once. One of my lieutenants, a young, stupid kid, had carried one in his wallet. He was dead now. I stared at that image, the little white shape floating in the darkness. Hi, Dad, the exclamation point was a beacon of pure, terrifying cheer. This had to be a joke. A cruel, vicious, deeply personal joke. But Eva, she was not cruel. She was angry. She was righteous. She was tired. But she was not cruel. My mind raced. A frantic accounting. 9 months. The divorce was final 9 months ago. I paced the length of the office. From the bulletproof windows overlooking the city to the cold, empty fireplace, I counted backward. When was the last time the memory hit me? Unbidden. It was not a night of passion. It was a night of war, the fight to end all fights. The night before she packed her bags, the night before the lawyers were called. It was whiskey and screaming and the desperate, violent crash of 2 people who knew it was over. An ending that felt like a car wreck. And it was... Yes, it was just over 9 months ago. The math worked. A cold sweat broke out on my forehead. I stalked back to the desk. She knew. She had to have known when she sat across from me in that sterile legal office. Her face calm, her hands steady as she signed her name, severing her life from mine. She knew she was carrying my child, my son, my daughter, my heir. A white-hot wave of rage flooded my system, so potent it made me dizzy. How dare she? How dare she keep this from me, to hide my blood, to deny me? To deny me what I did not want a child. A child was a weakness. A child was a liability. In my world, a family was not a blessing. It was a target. It was a string for your enemies to pull. I had built my life on having no strings. I gripped the edge of the desk, my knuckles turning white. The solid wood felt like paper. She had hidden this for 9 months, an entire human life, grown in secret, away from my eyes. And now? Why now? Why this text? Why at 3 a.m? Hi, Dad. The cheerfulness of it was the most terrifying part. It was not an accusation. It was not a demand for money. It was an introduction, as if she were presenting a new friend at a party. It was a light. It was sunny. It was everything our marriage, in the end, had not been. I looked at the phone again. The screen had gone dark, but I could still see the image burned into my vision. That little, grainy ghost. A bomb had just landed in my office. It had not made a sound, but it had blown my carefully constructed world to pieces. The ledgers, the manifests, the quiet power. It all seemed suddenly terribly fragile. Was this real? Was this some elaborate trap I did not know? My mind was a chaotic storm of questions. But one thing was clear. The silence was over. Eva had just reached out from the past, and she was dragging a future with her. A future I had never asked for. A future that was, apparently, mine. The quiet of the villa was no longer peaceful. It was the suffocating silence of anticipation. I had to see her. I had to know. I stared at the dark screen, but the image was still there, seared onto my retinas, that ghostly shape, that cheerful, devastating message. My New York, the one I saw from my windows, was a city of shadows and concrete canyons, a web of alliances and betrayals. I was the spider at its center. Maximo Costa, a name whispered in fear in some circles, in respect in others, a name that meant power, a name that meant violence, a name that was, until tonight, the only legacy I had. People see this city, this New York, and they see the lights, the theaters, the money. They see the vibrant, chaotic pulse of it. I see the veins. I see the arteries. I see the dark, dirty blood that keeps the machine running. I do not just live in this city. I am part of its foundations. My family, the Costas. We built parts of this city in our own image. We own the docks you do not see, the unions you do not hear about, the politicians who smile on television but take their orders in dark restaurants. This is my world. It is cold. It is brutal. And it is precise. There is no room for error. There is no room for sentiment. I built myself in its image. I am the man who chairs meetings where a single nod from me can end a life or begin a war. I am the man who has everything. The penthouse villa, the cars, the respect that is just a pretty word for fear. I have hundreds of men who call me boss, who would kill for me, who would die for me. And in all this noise, in all this power, I am utterly, completely alone. It is the cost of the crown. A king has no friends, only subjects and enemies. I have never had a real connection. I have never allowed one. Except for her. Eva. The name tasted like ash in my mouth. Even her name was a contradiction. Life. She was the one vibrant, uncontrollable, beautiful thing that had ever breached my walls. I remembered the first time I saw her. It was not at some gala. It was at a small art gallery downtown, a place I had gone only to buy the owner's silence on a different matter. She was working there. She was arguing with a customer, a wealthy man who was used to getting his way. And she was not backing down. She was not beautiful in the way of the women I usually saw, the ones who were all polished surfaces and hollow eyes. Eva was all fire and light. She had a mind like a steel trap and a laugh that could disarm a firing squad, and she was not afraid of me, not even when she found out who I was. In the beginning, that was what drew me in. She knew my name. She knew what it meant. And she looked me in the eye anyway. She challenged me. She argued with me. She saw the man, Maximo, not the monster, Costa. And God help me, I loved her for it. I loved her with a ferocity that scared even me. It was a stupid, reckless, dangerous thing to do, to let someone in, to give them that kind of power. I can still remember the early days, before the rings, before the titles, when it was just us, hidden away in a small apartment she kept, pretending my world did not exist for a few hours. We would talk for hours. She would read to me from books I did not understand. She would make me food, simple things. But it was the only time in my life I ever felt fed. She was smart. She was strong. She was the most resolute person I had ever met. So I did what a man like me does when he finds something precious. I tried to own it. I married her. I brought her into my house. This fortress. I thought I was giving her the world. I was, in fact, caging her. The outline is right. The marriage was one of the worst parts of my life, not because I stopped loving her, but because I loved her so much, and I had to watch, day by day, as my world poisoned that love. Our life was not a life. It was a sentence. She could not go out without bodyguards. She could not have friends, because how could she trust them? How could I? Every phone call, every late night, every time I came home with the smell of smoke or iron on my suit, it was another chip in the foundation. She was strong, but she was not a killer. She was principled, and I was a man who had long ago traded principles for power. The conflicts, they started small. Why were you so late? Who was that man? What was that noise I heard? They grew into terrible, seismic rows. She wanted a family. She wanted a normal life. How could I give her that? How could I bring a child into this? A child who would have the last name Costa. A child who would be a target before he or she ever took a first breath. I told her no. I told her it was impossible. I told her my life was what it was, and she, in her strength, in her unbending way, told me she could not live it. She could not raise children in a world of ghosts and guns. She could not love a man whose hands were never clean. The love turned, it curdled, it became a bitter, painful thing, a constant reminder of our mutual failure. She, who could not accept me, and I, who could not, or would not, change for her. The love was still there. That was the tragedy. It was buried under 9 feet of resentment and fear. It was the thing that made our fight so brutal. You can only be that hurt by someone you truly love. And now, this 9 months after I let her go, 9 months of telling myself it was for the best, that she was better off, that I was better off. free of the one thing that could make me weak. She sends me this, a sonogram, and 3 words. "Hi, Dad." She had kept it. She had held on to this one, final devastating piece of our love, this secret, this child, my child. She had carried him, or her, in silence, away from me, away from the danger. And in doing so, she had proven her point. She was a mother, and she was protecting her child from me. The rage from earlier was gone, replaced by a cold, hollowing dread. This was not a joke. This was not a trap. This was a reckoning. Eva, my smart, strong, resolute Eva, had just changed the rules of the game, a game I did not even know I was playing. She still had a piece of me, the most important piece. I walked to the window. The city was still dark, but the first hints of a bruised, purple dawn were staining the horizon. A new day was coming, and with it, a new life. My life, the one I had controlled with such iron-fisted precision, was over. It had ended with a single text message. The past was not dead. It was not even past. It was here, in grainy black and white, and it was calling me Dad. The phone was heavy in my hand, not in weight, but in significance. A block of glass and metal that held a complete impossibility. I had not moved from the window. The sky over the East River had turned from black to a deep, sickly purple. And now a sliver of pale gray light was outlining the buildings of Queens. The city was waking up. My city. And it felt, for the first time, like it was no longer mine. "Hi, Dad." The words echoed, a child's greeting. But it was not a child. It was Eva. This was a move, a calculated one. And I, a man who calculated everything, he had been caught completely blind. My first instinct, my professional instinct, was to dissect the threat. Was this a trick, a shakedown? 9 months, she had been gone 9 months. It was possible. A woman scorned, a woman who had walked away with millions but maybe wanted more. Maybe she wanted to destroy me. She knew, better than anyone, what a child would represent. She knew it was the one thing I had explicitly forbidden. I walked back to my desk, the phone still clutched in my hand. I sat down. The ledgers were still there. The shipping manifests, yesterday's business. It all seemed so trivial. I tried to think. I tried to be Maximo Costa, the boss. Who could she be working with? Had one of my rivals gotten to her? Was this an angle? To plant a child, an heir, and then control him or her? It was a long game. It was a good one. It was something I would respect if I saw it on a chessboard. But this was Eva. My mind fought itself. The strategist in me saw angles and plots. The man, the one I kept locked away, just felt the cold, sharp hook of her memory. Eva was not a plotter. Not in this way. She was direct. She was honest to a fault. It was her most defining and most infuriating characteristic. She would not lie about this. She would not invent a child to hurt me. She would, however, hide a child to protect him. And that brought me back to the rage, the cold, precise anger of betrayal. She had made this choice. She had decided for 9 months that I was not a father, that I had no right to know. She had sat in a lawyer's office, her belly just beginning to swell, and she had looked me in the eye and said goodbye. The sheer, unadulterated nerve of it was staggering. It was a betrayal deeper than any business treachery I had ever faced. I needed to remember. I closed my eyes, pushing away the sonogram, and focused. The last time, it had been a blur of whiskey and shouting. I had come home late. There was a gala. One of my rivals, Antonio Gallo, had been there, and he had made a point of speaking to Eva for just a little too long. I saw it. I saw the way he looked at her. I said nothing at the party. I had smiled. I had been the perfect, charming host. But when we got home, the mask came off. I had been possessive. I had been angry. I accused her of encouraging him. She, in turn, had accused me of being what I was, a jealous, violent brute. She was not wrong. The words had escalated. We had broken things, a vase, a mirror. We had torn at each in ways that had nothing to do with love and everything to do with ownership and resentment. And then, yes. The memory was not a good one. It was not tender. It was a desperate, angry collision. It was a way of claiming her, of reminding her, and myself, that she was mine. It was the last, dying gasp of a passion that had long since turned toxic. The next morning, she was gone. She had packed one bag and called her lawyer. I had not tried to stop her. So, it was possible. It was more than possible. It was a certainty. The timing was exact. This was not a trick. This was a consequence. The implications began to settle on me, heavy as a shroud, a son, a daughter, a living, breathing piece of me, out there in the world. A child I had never seen. A child who was, at this very moment, 9 months old. No, wait, the sonogram. She was not showing me a picture of a baby. She was showing me. I looked at the image again. I was no expert. It looked small. Was she pregnant, or was this an old picture? No. The message. Hi, Dad. It was an introduction. It was not, I am pregnant. It was, he is here, or she is here. The math, 9 months ago was the conception. She had carried the baby. The baby was born. How old? A few weeks, a month. My mind could not function. A man with no time for family, no space in my life for anything but the cold mechanics of power, was now a father. It was not a choice. It was a fact that had been delivered by text message. This changed everything. A boss, a man in my position, does not have children, not if he is smart. A child is a lever, a child is a target painted on your back. It is the one thing you cannot protect. Not really. Not all the time. And it is the one thing your enemies will use to destroy you. Gallo, the Russians, the Irish, they would see this not as a blessing. They would see it as a new front, a new weakness to be exploited. And Eva, where was she? She had enough money to go anywhere and to change her name, to disappear, but she had not. She had stayed. And she had sent this. Why? Was she in trouble? Was this a cry for help? Was she running out of money? No, I had given her a fortress of gold. She would never run out. This was something else. This was not a demand. It was a notification. It was her, in her own stubborn way, telling me that this existed. Maybe she thought I had a right to know. Maybe she was tired of holding the secret alone. It did not matter. The why did not matter. The what was sitting in my hand. I stood up. The sun was now a definite, ugly line of yellow light. The day had begun. My day. I had a meeting at 10. A shipment was due at Pier 12. I had a judge to pay off. I had a world to run. And yet, all of it felt distant. All of it felt like a game. This was real. I buzzed my intercom. After a few seconds, a sleepy, startled voice answered. Boss, it was Marco, my head of security. He slept in the quarters downstairs. Get the car, the black sedan, not the Bentley. No one else, just you. We are leaving in 10 minutes. Boss, it is 5 in the morning. And you are still talking. 10 minutes, Marco. I released the button, the panic, the shock. It was receding. It was being replaced by the one thing I knew, the one thing I was good at, action. I had a new objective. I had to find Eva. This was not a simple thing. When Eva left, she left. Our lawyers had built a wall of steel between us. All contact was forbidden unless it was through them. She had moved. Her old apartment was empty. Her gallery job was long gone. She had vanished. But no one vanishes from me, not in my city. I went to my bedroom. I showered in cold water. I dressed, not in a suit, jeans, a dark sweater, my driving gloves, the clothes I wore when I was not Maximo Costa, the public figure, but Maximo, the man who did his own work. When I came back to the office, I looked at the phone. I had not replied. What could I say? Who is this? Is this a joke? Congratulations. No, words were pointless. Words were what had destroyed us. I needed to see her. I needed to see her face when I asked the question. I needed to see her eyes. And I needed to see the child. My God, I needed to see my child. The thought hit me with the force of a physical blow. It was not a target. It was not a liability. It was my child. I picked up the phone. I sent a single message back to her. One word. Where? It was not just a question. It was a command. It was the beginning of the new war, a war for which I had no preparation, a war where the enemy was my own past, and the prize was a future I had never, ever wanted, a future that was now unavoidable. My world of shadows and steel was about to collide with a world of what? Of sonograms and sunny notes. The entire foundation of my life was about to be ripped out from under me, and I was the one lighting the fuse. The phone was silent. I stared at the single word I had sent, "Where?" until the screen timed out and went black. The silence in the car was heavy, broken only by the sound of the idling engine and Marco's nervous breathing. He was a good driver, smart enough to know that, when I was silent, he should be too. He was watching me in the rearview mirror. I could feel his eyes. "Drive," I said, my voice flat. "Where, boss?" The phone in my hand vibrated. A new message. Not an address, a question. "Are you gonna hurt me? Maximo." I closed my eyes. The old rage, the familiar burn of my temper, licked at my throat. Hurt her. She was the one who had hidden my son. She was the one who had lied, by omission, for nearly a year. She was the one holding the grenade. No. I typed back, one word, a lie, maybe. I did not know what I was going to do. Another vibration, this time an address, a coffee shop in Queens, a place I did not know, a neighborhood I had no business in. It was smart. Public, anonymous, a place where a man like me would stand out and where a scream would bring witnesses. She was still smart. "There," I said, and showed Marco the phone. He nodded, put the car in gear, and we pulled away from the curb, slipping into the sparse pre-dawn traffic. The drive was 20 minutes. It felt like 20 years. My mind, usually a fortress of cold logic, was a battlefield. I was trying to run the numbers, to assess the damage. But the data was all emotional. It was all a swirling mess of Eva's face, that grainy black and white image, and the staggering, terrifying reality of the word dad. I had spent my entire adult life building a wall around myself. Every action was calculated to increase my power, my influence, my invulnerability. I had no weaknesses. I had cut them all out. I had even cut her out, and now she had just handed me the single greatest weakness a man in my position could have, a son. My son. The words still felt wrong in my mouth. I had not even said them aloud. As we crossed the bridge, the city lights painting patterns on the dark water, Marco's work phone buzzed in its cradle on the dash, a different ring, a business ring. He glanced at it, then at me. "Answer it," I said. He picked it up. "Yeah." He listened. His face, visible in the green glow of the dashboard, tightening. "What do you mean?" "Hit." He listened again. "How many Gallo are you sure?" Gallo. Antonio Gallo, the man who had looked at my wife for too long, the man whose ambition was a poorly kept secret. Marco was staring at me, the phone still pressed to his ear. "Boss," he said, his voice tight. "The Red Hook warehouse. It was just hit. A crew. They knew the guard schedule. They took the whole shipment. Sal's guys think it was Gallo." The shipment, $3 million in uncut diamonds, waiting to be moved. A message, a bold one. Gallo was testing me. He was poking the bear. Normally, I would have diverted. I would have had Marco drive me to the warehouse. I would have made calls. I would have had 3 of Gallo's men in my own warehouses by noon, and one of them would have told me everything. My pulse would be thumping. I would be alive with the thrill of the hunt, the clarity of warfare. I felt nothing but a dull, cold annoyance. It was a distraction. Tell Sal to clean it up, I said. Marco blinked. Boss, it's $3 million. It's Gallo. Did I stutter? Marco tells Sal to clean up his own mess and find out who on his team is on Gallo's payroll. I turned to look out the window. We are not stopping. Marco stared at me for 1 second too long. In that second, I saw the calculation in his eyes. The boss was compromised. The boss was acting erratically. He turned back to the phone. You heard him. Clean it up and find the leak. The boss is not happy. He hung up. The rest of the drive was silent, but the air had changed. The first shot had been fired. My rivals, my so-called allies, they smell everything. They smell weakness. They smell distraction. And I, Maximo Costa, was now officially distracted. We pulled up across the street from the coffee shop. It was a small, brightly lit place with cartoon cups painted on the window. It was just after 6 a.m. A few workers were inside, grabbing coffee on their way to the subway. Wait here, I told Marco. Keep the engine running. Boss, let me come with you. You will wait. I got out of the car. The morning air was cold, smelling of diesel and fresh bread from a bakery nearby. I crossed the street. I did not check for threats. I did not scan the rooftops. For the first time in my life, I was not thinking like a target. I was just walking. I pushed the glass door open. A little bell tinkled, a cheerful, idiotic sound, and there she was. She was sitting in a booth by the back window. She was not the same woman I had divorced. The fire was still there, in her eyes, but it was banked. It was guarded. She was thinner, almost frail, but her hands were wrapped around her coffee cup with that same stubborn strength I remembered. She was worn down, tired, and she was terrified of me. I walked toward her. I did not say anything. I just slid into the booth opposite her. She flinched, a small, barely perceptible movement. She would not meet my eyes. She was staring into her cup. Eva, I said. She looked up. Her eyes, still the same impossible shade of green. They were red-rimmed. She had been crying. Maximo, she said. Her voice was a whisper. Is it true? I asked. I did not have time for pleasantries. I did not have time for the past. She knew what I meant. She did not pretend. She just nodded. Yes. And it is mine. That made her angry. The fire flared. Of course he is yours, she snapped, her voice low and fierce. Who else I am, not you. Maximo, I do not just move from one person to the next. The insult landed. It was deserved. I ignored it. 9 months, Eva. You sat in that office. You looked me in the eye. You took my money and you said nothing. Why, your money, she said with a bitter laugh. I did not touch your money, not a cent. I put it all in a trust. For him, I have been working 2 jobs. I clean apartments, Maximo, and I wait tables at night. I did not want your blood money. The image of her, his, Eva, scrubbing floors, it did not compute. It made me angry. You are a fool. I am a mother, she corrected me. I did what I had to do, to protect him, from you, from that. She gestured vaguely toward me, toward the black sedan waiting outside, toward the entire world I represented. Protect him, I said. The words were cold. By letting him be born in this, by working 2 jobs, by being alone, you call that protection. It is, she said, and now her eyes were clear. It is. He's safe. He's happy. He has never, not once, heard a man scream in anger. He has never seen a gun. He's never been woken up at 3 a.m. by his father coming home covered in whatever it is you get covered in. He is clean, and I am going to keep him that way. The conflict was right there, laid bare on the table between us. My world versus hers. My definition of protection versus hers. Mine meant armor and steel and guns. Hers meant anonymity and poverty and peace. Where is he? I asked. She tensed. He is not here. I did not ask if he was here. I asked where he is. With a friend, a neighbor. She watches him when I work the early shift. You leave my son with a stranger? The accusation was automatic, possessive. My son, I had said it. She is not a stranger. She is my friend. She is more of a family than you or anyone in your dark, broken world could ever be. She was almost shouting. A man at the counter looked over. I put my hand on the table. Eva, lower your voice. It was not a request. She recoiled, but she did her voice. You cannot be near him. Maximo, that is the deal. I sent you the picture because I am tired and because he is starting to look like you, and I thought you had a right to know. That is all. To know. Not to be in his life. You cannot be. You do not get to make that decision. I do, she insisted, won her voice a desperate hiss. I am his mother, and I will not have your life contaminate his. I will not have men like Gallo, or worse. Know he exists. She had said the name Gallo. She still paid attention. She was still smart. Before I could answer, my own phone vibrated. Not a text. A call. My personal line. I looked at the screen. It was my lawyer, David. He would not call me at this hour unless the world was ending. I have to take this, I said. I answered. What? Maximo, thank God. David's voice was panicked. What did you do? What are you talking about? I said, my eyes still locked on Eva. The Gallo shipment. I just got a call from a prosecutor in the district attorney's office. He's a friend. He said Gallo's people just delivered a gift, a witness. One of Sal's men, he is singing, Maximo. He is giving them everything on Red Hook. They are talking about a RICO charge. They are moving fast. They are going to freeze your assets. They see this as an opening. The blood in my veins turned to ice. Gallo had not just hit my warehouse. He had captured one of my men, and he had not killed him. He had turned him over to the Federals. This was not a poke. This was a full declaration of war. He was not trying to steal from me. He was trying to erase me. He was using the police, the government, to do his dirty work. And he was doing it now, because he thought I was weak. Maximo, Eva's voice was small. She saw my face. She knew. I stood up. The internal conflict was over. The choice had been made for me. I was a man who was good at one thing: war. I have to go, I said to David, and hung up. What is it? Eva asked, standing up too. What is wrong? My past, I said, looking at her. It is not as dark as my present. I threw $50 on the table for the coffee. This is not over, Eva. What are you doing? I am going to work. I said. I started to walk away. I had to fix this. I had to remind Antonio Gallo and the rest of the city who I was. I had to be the monster. Maximo, she called after me. I stopped at the door. I turned. He has your eyes, she said, her voice breaking. His name is Angelo. Angelo, the name of my father. I did not say anything. I just looked at her. I saw the mother, terrified. I saw the child, Angelo, my son, hidden away. And I saw the war that Gallo had just declared. I will protect what is mine. Eva, I said. It was not a comfort. It was a threat. It was a promise. I was not just talking about my money or my empire. I was talking about him, Angelo. I walked out the door, the little bell tinkling behind me. I was a man torn in two. Half of me was the cold, calculating boss on his way to wage a war to save his empire. The other half was a father who had just learned his son's name, and I did not know which one was more dangerous. The war with Antonio Gallo was not a war. It was a butchering. He had come at me with the full force of the federal government, and I, for the first time in my life, was on the defensive. My assets were frozen. My lawyers were drowning in subpoenas. The RICO charge was a guillotine hanging over my head. My men were being rounded up, their loyalty evaporating as they faced 20-year sentences. And Gallo, the snake, he was untouchable. He had painted himself as a reformer, a man cleaning up the very business he was trying to steal. And through it all, I fought a second war, the war for Angelo. For 6 weeks, I had tried to give Eva a fortress. I had sent my best men, the few I had left who were not compromised, to watch her building from a distance. I had an armored car waiting for her. I had a penthouse under a false name, stocked and ready. She had refused it all. She saw my men as an invasion. She saw my offers of safety as an attempt at control. She was not wrong. She had not let me see him, not once. "When this is over, Maximo," she had said, her voice thin over the phone, "when you are not a target, then we can talk." "You do not understand, Eva," I had told her a week ago in a desperate whispered call from a payphone. "You are the target because you are with me. He is the target." "I am not with you," she had screamed, and hung up. The call came not from a soldier, but from a rat, a bookkeeper in Gallo's organization, a man I had put in place years ago, a man I had forgotten. He was terrified. He was burning his phones. But he made one last call to a number I had given him. "He knows, boss." The man's voice was a panicked squeak. "He knows about the kid. He has a picture. He said he is going to collect the Costa Air tonight. He said an eye for an eye. He thinks you're going to take the plea. He is making sure you have nothing left to live for." The plea. The Federals had offered it yesterday. 10 years. I give them Gallo. I give them everyone. It was a joke. But Gallo did not see it as a joke. He saw it as a possibility. He was moving to take my son. I did not call Marco. I did not call anyone. This was not a job for a boss. This was a job for a father. I took the keys to the McLaren, not armored, not discreet, just fast. I was across the bridge in 9 minutes, a new record. I took the stairs to her apartment 2 at a time. The lobby was empty. No guards, no observers. She had sent them away, my men. She had told them to leave. The sheer suicidal foolishness of her pride made my blood boil. I did not knock. I used the key I had copied months ago. She was in the living room, packing, boxes, 2 suitcases. She was running. "You idiot," I roared, and the word echoed in the small, clean room. She spun around, her hand flying to her chest. "Maximo, you cannot. I am leaving. I am taking him away from this. From you." "You are too late," I said, grabbing her arm. "He knows. Gallo, he knows about Angelo. He is coming." Her face went white, not with anger, with pure animal terror. No, you are lying. You are saying that to scare me. He has a picture. Eva, he is on his way, right now, to collect him. Where is he?" "He is..." She looked at the back bedroom. "He is sleeping. Get him, now. We are leaving." "And I'm not going with you," she shrieked, pulling her arm back. "You brought this your world. You did this." "You are right," I shouted, the force of it shutting her up. I did this. I am poison, I am death, I am everything you said I am. But right now, I am the only thing on this earth that can keep you and my son alive. So, for once in your goddamn stubborn life, do what I say. Get the baby." She stared at me, her chest heaving, and then we heard it. The sound of the elevator doors opening down the hall, a heavy tread, voices, not panicked, calm, professional. They were not here to talk. Eva let out a small, broken sound. My world narrowed, the ledgers, the money, the empire. It all evaporated. There was only the room, the woman, and the sound of my son breathing in the next room. This was the danger I had always avoided. Not the bullets, not the knives. This feeling, the one where I would burn the entire world down for the 2 people in this apartment. "Go to him," I said, my voice dropping into the tone I used for killing. "Lock the bedroom door. The one in the back. Do not come out. Do not make a sound, no matter what you hear." "What are you, Maximo? They have guns." "So do I said. I pulled the Sig Sauer I always carried from the small of my back. "Go. Now. Eva." She ran. I heard the bedroom door close. I heard the lock click. I moved to the front door of the apartment. I checked the peephole. Nothing. Just the hallway. I heard them. They were at the other end, probably checking another apartment. They were thorough. I opened my door. Just a crack. I could hear them speaking Italian. Not gallows men. He had hired professionals. Mercenaries. This was not a message. This was an extermination. I had one choice. I could wait here, let them kick in the door, and they would come in. Guns blazing, and the first bullets would go through the wall, right into the bedroom where my son was sleeping. Or I could take the fight to them. I made the choice. It was not even a choice. I took a breath. I kicked my own door wide open, the crash echoing like a bomb in the narrow hall. "Hey!" I yelled. 3 men, all in black. They spun around. They were surprised. I was not supposed to be here. Their intel was wrong. I saw it in their eyes. I did not give them time to think. I was not a boss. I was not a strategist. I was a father. I was a storm. The first shot was mine. The man in the front, he was good. He was already raising his rifle. I was better. I hit him in the chest. He went down. The other 2 opened fire. The hallway erupted, plaster, concrete. Everything exploded. I was back inside my apartment, the wall by the door disintegrating. I was not trying to win. I was trying to make them come to me. One of them was smart. He was covering the other one. He was an idiot. He was rushing. He came through the door, low and fast. I did not meet him with a bullet. I met him with my body. I crashed into him. He was half my size. We hit the floor. His rifle clattered away. He had a knife. He was fast. He slashed. It caught my arm. I felt the heat, the burn. I did not care. I hit him. Once, twice. With all the rage of the last 6 weeks, with all the fear, he went limp. One left, the smart one. He was in the hall. He was waiting. He was quiet. "Costa," he yelled, "give us the kid. Gallo just wants the kid. He will let you live." "He lies," I yelled back, my breath tearing in my lungs. My arm was on fire. Blood was pouring. "Maybe, but you are one man. I am not alone. More are coming. You cannot win." He was right. I could not win. Not like this. I heard a sound, a cry. A thin, wailing cry. "Angelo?" And he was awake. The man in the hall heard it too. "There he is," he said, and I could hear the smile in his voice. I looked at the kitchen, Eva's kitchen. Small, clean, a microwave, a gas stove. I had an idea. It was a bad one, and it was a desperate one. "You want him," I yelled. "Come and get him." I ran to the stove. I turned on all 4 burners. The click, click, click of the igniters was insanely loud, the smell of gas. "Costa, what are you doing?" The man in the hall was nervous now. I grabbed the canister of olive oil from the counter. I threw it. It smashed against the wall by the door, splashing oil everywhere. I pulled my lighter from my pocket, a simple silver DuPont. Eva had given it to me. "For Angelo," I whispered. I flicked it. I threw it at the door. The world exploded. It was not a bang. It was a roar, a whoosh of pure yellow fire, the oil, the gas. It ignited. The entire front of my apartment became an inferno. I heard a scream. A single, high-pitched, terrible scream. Then, silence. I was already on my feet. Running, I smashed through the locked bedroom door. Eva was on the floor, in the corner, clutching a screaming bundle of blankets. She looked at me. Her eyes were wide, not with fear, with something else. Awe, terror. He's gone," I said, grabbing her. "We have to go. The fire escape." We ran to the bedroom window. I smashed it with my elbow. Below us, sirens. The fire. I had set a fire. The entire building would be chaos. It was our only chance. "Give him to me, Dan," I said. "No." "Eva, give me the child. I have one good arm. You go first." She looked at me, at the blood pouring down my front, at the smoke, and she handed me my son. He was so small, so light. He was still crying. I held him to my chest, my one good arm wrapped around him. His cries were muffled against my sweater. "Go," I said. She went. She scrambled out the window and onto the metal escape. I followed, one-handed, holding my son. The world was smoke and sirens and the small, warm weight in my arm. We were in the alley, running. The McLaren was a block away. I could hear it, my heart. It was not just my heart, it was his. We piled into the low car, Eva in the passenger seat, me in the driver's seat. I put Angelo in her lap. "Hold him," I said. I turned the key. The engine roared, a beast waking up. "Where are we going?" Eva whispered. She was shaking. She was looking at my arm, which was now a solid mask of red. "Away," I said. I looked in the rearview mirror as I spun the car around. I saw the smoke. I saw the lights. I saw the burning building. I saw my entire empire, my entire life, going up in flames. Gallo had won. He had taken everything. But I was the one holding the prize. I looked at Eva. She was crying silently, her face pale, her hands clutching Angelo so tight her knuckles were white. "He will not stop," she whispered. "He will find us." "Yes," I said. I hit the gas. The car leaped forward. I had to choose my work or my family, my empire or my son. It was not a choice. It was a joke. The empire was gone. It was ashes. It was the burning building in my mirror. It was the RICO charge. It was the men I had killed. But my son, he was here. He was warm. He had stopped crying. He was just looking at me. His eyes, he had my eyes. "He will not find us, mate," I said, "because Maximo Costa, he is going to die tonight." Eva looked at me, her eyes wide with confusion and a small, flickering spark of something I had not seen in years, hope. "My work is over," I said, and for the first time, I felt the truth of it. I had been a boss. I had been a king. It was all gone. But I was a father, and that job was just beginning. The McLaren was a black streak against the graying dawn, weaving through the arteries of a city I no longer owned. The wail of sirens was behind us, a fading chorus that marked the end of my life. I was driving one-handed. My left arm, from the elbow down, was a useless, heavy thing, slick with my own blood. The dashboard lights were flashing, a low fuel warning. It was almost comical. I had run an empire, and I had forgotten to gas up my car. "It hurts." Eva's voice was a tremor in the dark. She was not talking about her. She was looking at my arm, her face a pale, ghostly mask. Angelo was asleep in her arms, his small face so new and perfect, blissfully unaware of the inferno we had just fled. "It is nothing," I said. The lie tasted like copper. The pain was a living thing, a hot wire coiling from my hand to my shoulder. My vision was starting to blur at the edges. I had to stay awake. "You need a doctor, Maximo," she whispered. You are bleeding everywhere." "No doctors," I said. A doctor meant a hospital. A hospital meant police. Police meant Gallo's men would be there before the blood was even dry. "I have a place." I drove not toward the city, but away from it, toward the George Washington Bridge. I had one last sanctuary, a place my father had built, a place not even my lawyers, not even my wife, knew about. A small, ugly concrete box on the Jersey side, overlooking the river, bought under a name that did not exist. My ghost protocol. We drove in silence. The only sound was the roar of the engine and Eva's quiet, shaky breaths. She was clutching Angelo to her chest, her knuckles white. She was in shock. I knew the signs. I had seen them 1,000 times, but I had never seen them on her face. Not like this. We ran out of gas 2 blocks from the safe house. The McLaren sputtered, coughed, and died in a dark, industrial street. I did not swear. I did not hit the dash. I just unbuckled my belt. "We walk," I said. "Walk, Maximo. You can barely stand." Get out of the car, Eva. Take the bag. She had a small diaper bag, the only thing she had grabbed besides the baby. We leave the car. It is a beacon. They will find it in an hour. I got out. The second my feet hit the pavement, the world tilted. The blood loss was catching up to me. I leaned against the car, the cold metal a shock to my system. Eva scrambled out, her eyes wide as she looked at me. I was not a boss. I was not a king. I was a man bleeding out on a dirty street in New Jersey. She saw it, and for the first time, she did not look at me with hate. She looked at me with, I did not know what it was. Pity. She slung the bag over her shoulder. She shifted Angelo to her other arm, and she walked to me. She put her free hand under my good arm, my right arm. Lean on me, she said. I looked at her. Ava. Shut up, Maximo, she whispered. Just shut up and walk. Which way? I leaned on her. Her small, frail body was a steel rod. She was stronger than I had ever been. This way, I said. The safe house was a nondescript. 3-story building. The apartment was on the top floor. No elevator. The stairs were a nightmare. Each step was a new explosion of pain in my arm. Eva did not complain. She just grunted under my weight, her focus absolute. I punched in the code, a simple one, my father's birthday. The door opened. The apartment was a time capsule. It smelled of dust and old coffee. The furniture was from the 1980s. Brown, orange, ugly, but it had power. It had water. And it had a first aid kit. In the bathroom, I gasped, collapsing onto a hideous plaid sofa. In the cabinet, a blue box. Eva put Angelo, still sleeping, in the center of a dusty, king-sized bed. Then she was gone. She came back with the box. She did not ask permission. She ripped my sleeve open, the sound of the fabric tearing loud in the silent room. She hissed. The knife wound was deep, long, from my wrist to my elbow. It was not a slash. It was a canyon. We have to sew this, she said, her voice shaking, but her hands were steady. She pulled out a needle, thread, and a bottle of antiseptic. Just do it, I said, gritting my teeth. She poured the antiseptic. It was not a fire. It was a nova. I roared. I did not mean to. The sound just ripped out of me. Angelo, in the next room, started to cry. Eva's head snapped up. Shh, she said, not to me. To him. It is okay, baby. Mama is here. She looked back at me. Be quiet, withoutly she ordered. You are scaring him. And so I was quiet. I bit my lip until it bled. I watched her, my ex-wife, the woman who hated me. As she pushed a needle through my skin, her brow was furrowed in concentration. Her hands were gentle, efficient. She did not know what she was doing. Not really, but she was doing it. She was saving my life. When she was done, she wrapped my arm in thick, clean gauze. Her hands were covered in my blood. She looked at them. Then she looked at me. That is all I can do, she said. You need a real doctor. This is good, I said. My voice was hoarse. You did good, Eva. She did not say thank you. She just went to the sink and washed her hands, scrubbing her skin raw. The baby was still crying, a high, thin, desperate sound. He is hungry, she said, her back to me. The bag, I have a bottle. She went to the bedroom. I heard her murmuring. The crying softened, then stopped. I was alone on the couch. The adrenaline was gone. The pain was a tidal wave. I was so tired, I had not slept in. I did not know. 2 days 3. I closed my eyes, just for a second. I woke up to a new sound, a small, gurgling coo. I opened my eyes. The sun was high. It was afternoon. I was still on the couch. Someone had put a dusty, knitted blanket over me. I sat up. The pain was still there, a dull, throbbing bass note. But my head was clear. Eva was asleep in a chair opposite me. She was exhausted. Her face, in the light, was lined with a weariness that cut me to the bone. And he was on the floor, lying on his back on the blanket I had been under. He was not crying, he was just looking. His small fists were batting at the air. He was wearing a small blue outfit. I stared at him. This was my son, Angelo. I had killed 3 men for him. I had burned down a building for him. I had destroyed my life for him. And I had never even touched him. My good arm, my right arm, it was shaking, not from blood loss. I got off the couch. Slowly, my legs were weak. I knelt on the floor next to him. He was small. He was perfect. He had a tuft of dark hair. He had my nose and, as Eva had said, he had my eyes. They were open, wide, and looking right at me. I reached out a finger. I touched his hand. His fingers, impossibly tiny, wrapped around my own. It was not a grip. It was a reflex. But it was a connection. It was an anchor. All the power, all the money, all the fear I had commanded, it was all smoke. It was all ashes. This was real. This was the only thing that had ever been real. My son, Angelo Costa. No, not Costa. He could not be Costa. Costa was a name that meant death. Costa was a name that had almost gotten him killed. I heard a shift. Eva was awake. She was watching me. Her eyes were not angry. They were not hateful. They were searching. Maximo, she said. I did not look away from the baby. You were right, I said, my voice thick. You were right to keep him from me. She was silent. My life, the life I led, it is over, I said. Gallo, the federals, they think I am dead. They will look for a body in the fire, my car. They will find it. They will find the blood. Maximo Costa died in that fire. But he did not, she said. No, I said. I looked up at her. He did. The man who sat in that office, the man who ran the docks, the man you married, he is gone. I burned him down myself. So who are you, she asked. I looked back at my son. His tiny fingers were still wrapped around mine. I do not know, I said, but I am his father. I made a decision, not a choice, a vow. It was not about protecting him with guns. It was not about protecting him with money. It was about protecting him with my absence. We have to go, I said. Go where we are trapped. Maximo, they will be hunting us. They are hunting me, I said. They are hunting Maximo Costa. They are not hunting Michael or John or David. They are not hunting a man and his wife and his child. Not yet. I had one last card to play. One last ghost in the machine, a bank account in Switzerland, new identities, enough money for a new life, a life I'd set up, not as an escape, but as a final in case of scenario. It was the one thread Gallo could not pull. But you have to choose, Ava, I said, standing up. You are not my prisoner. You were right. I am poison. I am danger. I can leave. I can give you the money, the papers, and I will disappear. You and Angelo. You can be safe. You can be clean. I was offering her the out she had always wanted, freedom from me. She looked at me. She looked at our son. She looked at my bandaged, bloody arm, the arm I had used to kill for them, to save them. You are an idiot, Maximo, she said, her voice rough. I'm giving you a You think safe is the same as alone? She cut me off. I was alone for 9 months. I was terrified every single day. I was safe from you. But I was not safe from the world. I was not safe from what he... She nodded at Angelo. Represents he is your son. He is a Costa. That will never wash off. Not completely. She stood up. She walked over to me. She was so small, and she was the strongest person I had ever known. You think you can just walk away? She asked. I can, I said, to protect him. No, she said. She reached out, her fingers hovering over my good arm. She did not touch me. The only way to protect him is to do it together. I cannot do this alone, Maximo. I thought I could. I was wrong. It was not forgiveness. It was not love. It was a truce. It was a business deal. It was a new kind of alliance. forged in fire and blood. "The man you were, he is dead," she said. "You are right. But this man—" She looked at me, really looked at me. "This man, he has a chance to be a father." She was giving me a choice, not between my work and my family, but between my past and my future. I looked at Angelo. I looked at Eva, the woman who had seen the monster in me, the woman who had seen the father. "Okay," I said, "together." It was the hardest word I had ever said, and the only one that mattered. The fight was not over. Gallo was still out there. The world was still out there. But I was not a boss fighting for an empire. I was a man, fighting for his family. And that made me more dangerous than Maximo Costa had ever been. We left New Jersey at 4 a.m, 2 days after the fire. My arm was a throbbing, agonizing mess, but I had stitched it, and Eva had kept it clean. We took a bus. Maximo Costa sat in the back of a reeking Greyhound bus, my head covered by a hoodie, my son bundled in Eva's arms. We looked like what we were, refugees. Maximo Costa was dead. The news was everywhere. A tragic fire. A notorious mobster, already under indictment, caught in a rival's explosive trap. The Federals, in a statement, had said his unfortunate demise would not stop their investigation. Gallo, in a brief televised interview outside a courthouse, had looked somber. He had offered his condolences to a family that no longer existed. He had won. He was the new king. Let him have his ashes. We became the Harrisons, Michael, Eva, and Leo, not Angelo. Angelo was a name from my past, a name my father carried, a name tied to a legacy of blood. Eva had chosen Leo. Like a lion, she had said, her first small smile in a week, but a new one. We went west, far west. We bought a small house with cash in a town in Oregon, a town that smelled of pine trees and rain. There were no sirens, there were no skyscrapers, there was just quiet. It was the loudest sound I had ever heard. The Swiss account had been enough. We had new papers, new lives. I was Michael Harrison, a man with a mysterious inheritance and a quiet disposition. I told people I was a consultant. No one asked what that meant. Here, people respected privacy. The first 6 months were a new kind of war, a war with myself. I was not a boss. I was not a killer. I was a man who did nothing. I woke up. I drank coffee. I watched Eva with Leo. I learned what it was to be useless. Eva, she bloomed in the quiet. The lines of terror around her eyes softened. She started to laugh again, not the fiery, challenging laugh I remembered, but a new sound, a softer, brighter thing. She would take Leo to the park. She would talk to the other mothers. She was normal. She was what she had always wanted to be. And I was the ghost at her table. I was a good father, in the mechanical sense. I learned to change a diaper. My one hand, my good hand, was steady. I learned to mix a bottle. I learned to hold him, my 6-month-old son, so he would not cry. He still had my eyes. And when he looked at me, I felt a kind of judgment, a purity, that made me want to look away. What right did a man like me have to hold something so clean? The change in me. It was not a revelation. It was a sanding down. It was the slow, agonizing erosion of Maximo Costa. I had to learn how to be Michael. Michael did not snap his fingers for service. Michael did not look at every man in a room and assess how to kill him. Michael was boring. He was quiet. He took out the garbage. I started to work with my hands. I fixed the fence. I built a crib. I found I was good at it. The focus, the precision. It was the same part of my brain that had run my logistics. But at the end of the day, I had a fence, not a body, not a ledger full of sin. We, Eva and I, we were not husband and wife. We were survivors. We were partners in this strange new life. We slept in different rooms. But one night, I woke up I had had the dream again, the fire, the smell of burning oil and gas, the man's scream. I was in the kitchen, my good hand gripping the counter, my bad arm aching from the memory of the knife. She came in. She did not turn on the light. The same one, she asked. Yes, I said. She came over. She did not touch me. She just stood beside me, looking out the window at the dark, empty street. He's not in that fire anymore. Maximo. My name is Michael, I said, too harshly. Not to me, she said softly. Not in here. She pointed to her head. In here. You are the man who walked into a fire for us, the man who sewed his own arm, the man who gave up. That. She waved at a non-existent empire. I did not give it up, I said, the truth bitter in my mouth. It was taken from me. I lost. Did you? She said. She turned. She was very close now. She reached up, her hand small and warm, and she touched the scar on my bad arm, the one the neighborhood doctor, a kind old man, had told me was a terrible shame. It looks to me like you won. And she kissed me. It was not the desperate, angry kiss from our past. It was not a kiss of passion. It was a kiss of acceptance. It was a kiss that said, I see you, all of you, and I am still here. We began again, not as Maximo and Eva, but as Michael and Eva. It was slow. It was hesitant, but it was real. It was a life built not on power, but on the shared truth of a screaming baby at 2 a.m. It was a life I had never known I wanted. It was a Tuesday. I was in the yard, stacking firewood. Leo, now almost a year old, was in a playpen on the porch, watching me. Eva was at the store, a black car, an old Lincoln pulled up to the house. My blood did not freeze. It did not pound. It just went cold. I did not run. I did not reach for a weapon I did not have. I just stood. Maximo Costa was dead. But I was not. An old man got out of the back. He was small, frail, and wore a suit that cost more than my house. He had a cane. I knew him. Don Vieri, my father's contemporary, a man who had been a legend when I was a child, a man I thought was long dead. He walked over to my broken fence. He did not look at me. He looked at Leo. He has your eyes. Vieri said. His voice was a dry rattle. My name is Michael Harrison, and I said. Vieri smiled. It was a terrible, ancient smile. No, it is not, but it is a good name. Michael, the archangel, the one who casts out the devil. He finally looked at me. His eyes were milky with age, but they were sharp. You look well, Maximo. The clean air agrees with you. What do you want? I asked. My hand was gripping the axe. Want, he chuckled. I'm too old to want. I'm here to, observe, to close a book. Gallo is your business, not mine. Antonio Gallo, Vieri said, and he spat on the ground, is dead. I froze. What? He did not enjoy his reign. The Federals, they are so efficient. They used the testimony of the late Maximo Costa. They used your lawyer's notes. They built a case. Gallo was arrested 3 months ago. He was denied bail. He was careless in prison. He was stabbed 27 times over a game of cards. Vieri shrugged. A tragedy. I stared at him. The king was dead. The man who had taken my empire. So it is over, I said. Is it? Vieri said. You are still Acosta, your son. He is Acosta. That name. It rings. Even here. Even in this forest. There are others. Not just Gallo. They will always wonder. They will always look for him. An heir is a threat. This was it. The threat. He was here to deliver it. He is not an heir, I said, my voice low. He is my son. His name is Leo Harrison, and I will kill any man who comes near him. Vieri laughed, a dry, hacking sound. Yes, yes, you will, that, I know. He leaned on his cane. That is why I am here. I do not understand. The families, the commission, they are, messy. They do not like loose ends, a dead boss, a missing heir. It is not clean. They wanted to send men to clean it, to make sure the Harrison family disappeared. My hand tightened on the axe. But I told them no, Vieri said. I told them I would come. I told them I would see for myself. He pointed his chin at me. I see a man, a carpenter. Not a boss. I see a father, not a king. And so, Vieri said, I will go back, and I will tell them. The Costa line is finished. It died in that fire. With your pride. The boy is a Harrison. He is nothing. He is no one. He is not one of us. He will never be. He was giving me an out. He was giving me my life. He was not just allowing it. He was sanctioning it. He was ordering the world I had left to forget me. Why? I asked. You owed me nothing. You owed my father nothing. Your father, Vieri said, his eyes distant, was a good man and a fool. He loved the power, you. I watched you. You were good. You were better than all of them, but you did not love it. You loved the control. And now, he smiled. You have it. A wife, a son, a fence. This is your empire now. It is small, but it is all yours. He turned to go. Will I see you again? I asked. Vieri looked back, his small frame silhouetted against the pine trees. Do you want to? I looked at my son, who was babbling, holding his small hands out to me. No, I said. Then no, Vieri said. You will not. Goodbye. Michael Harrison, it was a pleasure to see you. He got back in the car. The old Lincoln drove away. I stood there for a long time, holding the axe. I was free. I was truly, finally, free. The past was not just dead, it was buried. I heard the front door open. Eva was home. She was carrying a bag of groceries. Who was that? She asked, her eyes narrowing at the car. Just a man, I said. I dropped the axe. He was lost. I walked over to the porch. I unlatched the playpen. I picked up my son. He smelled like milk and sunshine. He laughed, a pure, clean sound. I held him to my chest. He was not a target. He was not an heir. He was just Leo. Eva came up. She kissed me. She kissed Leo. Come on, she said. I bought groceries. I need help. I looked at her. I looked at my son, my empire, small and all mine. Was Maximo Costa truly gone? Could he ever be? I did not know. I did not care. All I knew was that Michael Harrison had to go help with the groceries, and that, for now, was enough. Thank you so much for listening to my story. Where in the world are you listening from? Let me know in the comments. I would love to connect and hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed this, please consider subscribing to my channel, Mafia Boss Stories, like the video, and give it a boost by hitting the hype button. It helps get these stories out to more people, and I truly appreciate your support.